And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a moment and think. Just think, no distractions, no rush. And think about the last time you felt truly empowered. What were you doing? What was going through your mind? Think about a time when you overcame a challenge, when you didn't just survive, but thrived. In that moment, what did you believe? What was the story your mind was telling you? I believe that the difference between those who break through barriers and those who stay stuck is not necessarily in their circumstances, but in the way they think. Our thoughts are the lens through which we view the world, and the world we see is a reflection of the thoughts we hold. Today, I want to share with you how to harness the power of your thoughts to create the life you want. Everything you experience in life, every success, every failure, every high and low moment you go through begins with a thought. Every single one. The shoes you're wearing today, someone had to first think about how to design them. The car you drive, the house you live in, all of these things were once ideas in someone's mind, something that didn't exist until it was first conceived as a thought. But it goes beyond just the things around you. The most profound influence of your thoughts is in shaping your own reality, the way you feel about yourself, the relationships you form, and the actions you take. When we think about the world we live in, it's easy to believe that what we experience is entirely a result of the things we can see and touch, the people we meet, the jobs we have, the challenges we face. But the truth is, all of that is shaped, not just by the world outside of us, but by the thoughts we hold in our minds. Your mind is like the lens through which you view everything. If your lens is clouded with doubt, fear, or negativity, that's the world you'll see. But if your thoughts are filled with possibility, optimism, and courage, that's what will manifest in your life. Take a moment and think about someone you admire, a person who has achieved something great in life. Maybe it's an artist, an entrepreneur, or even someone from your personal life. What set them apart from everyone else? Was it simply their circumstances? No. In almost every case, it was their thoughts. How they chose to think about their challenges, how they reframed their setbacks, how they didn't let the opinions of others define their potential. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling. We all know her now as the creator of the Harry Potter series, one of the most successful and beloved franchises in history. But before the fame, before the books became a global sensation, she was a single mother living on welfare. She was struggling not just financially, but emotionally. She had nothing to give but a dream, a thought of a magical world where a young boy would defy the odds and find his place in a larger story. She had no guarantee that anyone would ever read her books. She was rejected by dozens of publishers, each time receiving a letter saying, "No, this isn't the right fit." Imagine the thoughts that might have filled her mind during those times. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this dream is too big. Maybe I should just give up. But those thoughts didn't define her. She understood something crucial. Her circumstances didn't have to control her future. It was her thoughts that shaped her reality. She shifted her thinking from "I'm a failure" to "what if this works?" And the moment she did that, her life changed. She said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." What she thought about her situation, what she believed was possible, led her to success. Now, think about this for a moment. What if you could apply the same principle to your own life? What if you could reframe your thoughts, see your challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities, and change the story you've been telling yourself for so long? What would your life look like if you truly understood that your thoughts have the power to shape your reality? This is not just about being positive for the sake of it. It's not about ignoring real struggles or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about recognizing that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond to what happens. The thoughts we choose to entertain have the power to lift us up or hold us back. I want you to think for a moment, when was the last time you told yourself you couldn't do something or that something was impossible? What were the thoughts behind those words? Now, imagine what would happen if you simply shifted that thought. Instead of saying, "I can't," say, "I'm capable of learning." Instead of thinking, "This is too hard," tell yourself, "I'll find a way." The moment you take control of your thoughts, you take control of your actions, and ultimately, you take control of your life. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that everything is out of our hands, that our future is determined by the world around us. But the truth is, the way we think is what dictates the course of our lives. Every person who has made a difference, every person who has risen you above adversity has done so not because of their circumstances, but because of how they chose to think about them. When you embrace the power of your thoughts, when you realize that the narrative you've been telling yourself isn't set in stone, something incredible happens. You stop being a passive observer of your life and become an active participant in shaping it. You stop letting fear or doubt write your story. You start writing it yourself. Just like J.K. Rowling, you begin to see that every failure is an opportunity to rebuild, and every challenge is a chance to grow. So the next time you face a tough situation, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it the story I want to live? If the answer is no, then change the story, because when you change your thoughts, you change your reality. And when you change your reality, you change your future. Let's talk about something that, if we truly grasp it, has the power to change our lives. Not every thought you have is the truth. Now, I know that sounds simple, but let's pause and really think about that for a moment. How many times a day do you hear that voice in your head telling you you're not good enough, this is too hard, or you'll never make it? Most of the time, these thoughts are not just fleeting, they linger. They creep in at the most inconvenient times, and they can feel so real. They seem like facts. They seem like undeniable truths, but the truth is they aren't truths at all. They are just thoughts. And think about it for a second. When you wake up in the morning, do you start the day with a sense of certainty about your worth and potential? Or do you often find yourself thinking about the challenges you face, the obstacles ahead, and the doubts that whisper to you? The world doesn't always have the power to dictate how we feel. More often than not, it's our thoughts that shape our perceptions of the world. Take a child, for instance. When a toddler takes their first steps, what happens? They stumble, they fall, they may even hurt themselves. But does that child think, I guess I'm not meant to walk? Absolutely not. They don't even entertain that thought. What do? They get up, they try again, and they keep going. They don't have the negative stories we carry with us as adults. They haven't yet accumulated the kind of self-doubt that tells them failure is final. Their thoughts don't limit them, they empower them. But as we grow older, something changes. We start to believe the stories our minds tell us, the ones that tell us we're not enough, that we can't, or that failure is inevitable. We listen to these thoughts as though they are absolute truths, and in doing so, we give them power. We let them determine our actions, our choices, and sometimes even our future. Let me share a story to make this clearer. Think about Thomas Edison and his journey with inventing the light bulb. Imagine what he must have felt after failing over 1,000 times. It's easy to assume that at some point he must have had doubts. Maybe he heard thoughts in his mind like, you're wasting your time, or this isn't going to work. Most of us, after so many failures, might have walked away and said, it's just not meant to be. But Edison didn't do that. Instead, he said, I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work. Edison understood something profound. He realized that the thoughts he had thoughts of failure were not the truth. They were simply part of the process. He didn't let those thoughts define him. Instead, he used them as stepping stones, seeing them not as reasons to quit, but as valuable lessons. He knew that thoughts, however powerful, are not always reflective of the truth. And that's the key. We have the power to choose which thoughts we accept and which we reject. Now, I want you to think about your own life. How many times have you let a negative thought, a doubt, or a fear stop you from pursuing something you care about? How many times have you talked yourself out of an opportunity because you believe the thoughts that told you you're not ready, or you're not smart enough, or what if you fail? Those thoughts might feel like truths in the moment, but in reality, they're just thoughts no more valid than the belief that a child can't learn to walk after they fall. Here's the thing, those voices in your head that tell you that you can't, that's not who you are. Those voices are just part of your mind's natural defense mechanism against risk. They are designed to protect you from harm, from failure, but they don't know what you're capable of. They don't see the bigger picture. Your mind, in its quest to protect you, can often hold you back more than it helps you move forward. When you feel doubt creeping in, when you hear the voice telling you you can't, ask yourself, is this thought serving me, or is it holding me back? Remember, you have the power to choose whether to believe those thoughts or not. You don't have to accept them as truths. The key is to recognize that thoughts are not facts. They are simply signals based on past experiences, and those experiences and fears don't have to control you. You have the ability to reframe them. You can choose to replace limiting thoughts with empowering ones. Every time you do this, you take back control over your life, or your life over your destiny. Just like Edison, when you fail, don't listen to the voice telling you that you've reached your limit. Instead, tell yourself that failure is part of the process. Tell yourself that you're closer to success than you think. Because the truth is, you are. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes to separate the voice of doubt from the voice of possibility. So next time you hear those limiting thoughts, those negative whispers in your head, remember, they are not truths, they're simply thoughts. And you get to decide which thoughts you give power to. What you choose to believe today will shape the reality you live tomorrow. What would it look like if you could change the story in your mind? What if you could take a setback, a disappointment, or even a failure, and instead of seeing it as a sign of defeat, you saw it as a stepping stone towards something greater? Here's the hard truth. You can't control everything that happens to you. You can't control the people around you, the economy, the circumstances that life throws at you. There are so many things that are out of your control, but here's what you can control: how you think about those things. The way you interpret your experiences, how you choose to respond to challenges, and how you reframe your thoughts, that is where your true power lies. And think about this for a moment. Life is not happening to you. Life is happening through you. Every moment you face, every obstacle, every success and failure, it all starts with how you view it, how you think about it. It's about perspective, and it's about choice. You have the ability to decide what the meaning of any situation is. When you realize this, you realize something profound. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You become the architect of your own future. Let's take a look at Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple, as an example. In 1985, Steve Jobs was ousted from the very company he created. Can you imagine the thoughts running through his head at that moment? I'm a failure. I'm done. I'll never get another chance. For many of us, these kinds of thoughts would feel like the end. We would think of them as confirmation of our worst fears, that we were not good enough, that our best days were behind us. But that wasn't how Jobs saw it. Instead of falling into despair, he reframed the situation. He didn't see being fired as a failure. He saw it as an opportunity. He later said that being let go from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to him, because it gave him the chance to start over, to rediscover what he truly cared about, to innovate, and ultimately to return to Apple and lead it into the future as the company we know today. What's remarkable about Jobs isn't just that he was successful. It's that he reframed the hardest moment of his career. He changed the way he saw failure. Instead of allowing it to define him, he used it as fuel for growth. The setback didn't defeat him, it empowered him. It pushed him to think differently, to view challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to reinvent, to innovate, and to change the course of his life and the world. This is the power of reframing. When we learn to change the way we think about our circumstances, we start to see the world in an entirely new light. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of our situations, and we start seeing ourselves as active participants in our own story. We start to see obstacles as opportunities, setbacks as lessons, and failures as stepping stones to something greater. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that failure is final, that setbacks mean we are not on the right path. But here's the thing: failure is not an end, it's a part of the process. Every successful person, every person who has achieved greatness, has faced failure. What separates those who succeed from those who don't is their ability to reframe failure, to see it not as an obstacle, but as a part of the journey. So think about your own life. What's holding you back? What's the story you're telling yourself? When something doesn't go as planned, how do you respond? Do you let the situation define you, or do you reframe it? The power to change the narrative of your life lies in your ability to choose how you think about the situations you face. It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. It's about changing the narrative from "this is impossible" to "this is a challenge I can overcome." When you do this, you start to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You see potential where others see risk. You stop seeing failure as a dead end, and instead you see it as a sign that you are on the verge of something bigger. When we reframe our thoughts, we are not denying the reality of our challenges. We are simply choosing to focus on what we can learn from them, how we can grow, and how we can move forward. We stop allowing our thoughts to limit us, and we start using them to push us toward our potential. This shift in perspective doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice. It's something that requires effort and intentionality. But once you begin to embrace it, you will find that your life begins to shift in ways you never thought possible. The struggles you once saw as obstacles will become the very things that propel you forward. The doubts you once believed will begin to fade as you replace them with new empowering thoughts that align with the person you are becoming. So the next time you face a setback, ask yourself, what if this is not happening to me, but for me? What can I learn from this moment? Reframe your thoughts and you will reframe your life. You may be asking yourself right now, does this really work? Can changing my thoughts actually change my life? And you might think that the idea of positive thinking is just some abstract concept, something that sounds good in theory, but doesn't have any real, tangible effect. But let me tell you, the science says otherwise. In fact, it says that changing the way we think can not only impact how we feel, but can literally change the course of our lives. Studies have proven that positive thinking has the power to transform not just our emotional state, but our physical state as well. For example, research from the University of Pennsylvania has found that people who practice positive thinking consistently experience lower levels of stress, higher levels of energy, and an increased likelihood of achieving their goals. These are not just feel-good statements, they are grounded in science. When we actively focus on positive thoughts, we trigger specific neural pathways in our brain that foster creativity, problem-solving, and resilience. On the other hand, negative thinking activates a completely different response in our brain. Negative thoughts send us into fight or flight mode, triggering the stress response in our bodies. When this happens, we experience an increase in cortisol levels, which over time can lead to fatigue, anxiety, and a decreased ability to focus. Essentially, negative thinking doesn't just cloud our judgment, it physically limits our potential. It makes it harder for us to think clearly, harder to be creative, and harder to overcome challenges. And think about this for a moment. When you focus on negative thoughts, what happens to your energy? It drains you, right? You start to feel defeated before you've even tried. But when you shift your focus to something positive, something hopeful, you feel lighter, more energized, and more capable handling whatever comes your way. That shift in mindset is not just a good feeling, it's a real measurable change happening inside your brain. One of the most profound examples of the power of belief is the placebo effect. We've all heard the term, but have you ever stopped to truly understand the science behind it? The placebo effect occurs when patients believe they are receiving a real treatment, even when they are only given a sugar pill or a harmless injection. And yet, studies have shown that people who believe they are receiving a treatment often experience significant physical improvements. How is this possible? It's simple. The mind is incredibly powerful. What it believes, it creates. When people believe in the possibility of healing, their bodies respond accordingly. Their belief nothing more than a thought has the power to create a real physical change. What this tells us is that we are far more than just passive observers of our lives. Our minds, our thoughts have the power to shape our reality in profound ways. It's not just about wishful thinking. It's not about pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. It's about believing in the possibility of change and the possibility of success, and understanding that by thinking positively, you're not ignoring your challenges. You're creating the mental conditions that allow you to rise above them. The key here is not simply about thinking happy thoughts. It's about choosing to focus on the positive, on what you can control, on what's within your power. Positive thinking isn't about denying reality. It's about believing in your ability to create a better reality. When you focus on the positive, you activate parts of your brain that enhance your ability to solve problems, to stay resilient, and to keep moving forward even when things get tough. You've heard the expression, what you think you become. It's not just a catchy quote, it's rooted in how our brains work. If you believe that you can't do something, you won't. If you believe that your situation is hopeless, it will feel hopeless. But when you believe that you have the power to change, that you can overcome obstacles, your mind begins to search for solutions. Your brain works differently when you choose to believe in the possibility of success. It starts to seek out opportunities rather than dwelling on limitations. Think about the times when you've been at your lowest, when things were hard and it felt like everything was going wrong. What were your thoughts like? Did you see yourself as a victim of circumstance, or did you take a step back and remind yourself that this moment, however tough, was just one chapter in your story? What did you choose to believe? Your belief at that moment shaped how you experienced it. Now, imagine what would happen if you reframed every setback as an opportunity. If you chose to believe that every challenge was a stepping stone to growth, your mind would start looking for solutions. You would find yourself more resilient, more determined, and more energized, because positive thinking doesn't just make you feel good, it literally changes how your brain operates, enhancing your ability to adapt and overcome. What you believe truly matters. Your thoughts shape your experiences, and ultimately, they shape who you are and who you become. It's not some abstract idea, it's the science of how our brains work. When you choose to focus on positive thoughts, your brain activates the pathways that allow you to thrive. So the next time you feel doubt or fear creeping in, remember you have the power to change your thoughts, and by doing so, you can change your life. What you think truly can become who you are. You are the master of your mind. The thoughts that come into your head don't control you, control them. And it all starts with a choice, the choice to take ownership of your thoughts, to recognize that they do not define who you are or what you're capable of. You get to decide which thoughts you entertain and which ones you let go. This control, this power is yours. It begins today. How many times have you found yourself held back by your own thoughts? How often have you let fear, doubt, or insecurity dictate the path you take? The truth is, most of the limitations you face in life come from within. The world around you can be challenging, yes, but the biggest obstacle to your success is often the story you tell yourself. You may believe that you're not good enough, that the odds are against you, or that the dream you have is too big. These thoughts don't just appear out of nowhere. They are choices. And once you realize that, you take the first step toward transforming your life. It starts by recognizing the thoughts that limit you. It starts with acknowledging that fear has crept into your thinking. Fear that you won't succeed, that you're not qualified, or that you'll fail. But here's the thing, fear does not need to define your future. It's simply a signal, a momentary hesitation in your mind. It's not a fact, it's a feeling that passes once you choose to move beyond it. It's time to challenge those thoughts. When you hear the voice inside your head telling you this isn't possible, ask yourself, what if it is? When you're paralyzed by the thought of failure, ask, what if failure is simply part of the process? When fear tells you that you're not good enough, ask who says, why not me? And when you begin to ask those questions, you take away the power that fear has over you. You choose to step into the realm of possibility. The truth is, you are capable of far more than you give yourself credit for. But you will never know your true potential until you take control of your thoughts. Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess, and it's time to start using it to your advantage. Your thoughts have the ability to create the life you desire, to fuel the action you need to take, and to keep you moving forward no matter the obstacles. But only if you let them, only if you take control. So let me ask you, what is the story you're telling yourself right now? What narrative are you living by? Because make no mistake, you are telling yourself a story every single day. Every time you face a challenge, every time you have to make a decision, you're crafting a story about who you are and what you can accomplish. And here's the thing, you are the author of that story. You get to decide how it unfolds. But so often we tell ourselves stories that limit our potential. We write ourselves into corners. We tell ourselves that we aren't capable, that we can't have what we desire, that success is reserved for others, not us. But what if that story isn't true? What if the limitations you've placed on yourself are just illusions? What if the only thing standing between you and the life you want is the way you think about yourself and your potential? Once you realize that you are the one writing your story, you gain the power to rewrite it. It's time to stop letting fear and doubt be the authors of your life. It's time to take the pen back into your hands. When you decide to write a new story, you change the way you see yourself and the way you see the world. You stop playing small. You stop settling. You stop letting your circumstances define you. Instead, you start to see opportunities. You start to see yourself as capable, and you start to move forward with confidence. But rewriting your story isn't easy. It takes intentionality. It takes awareness. It takes practice. There will be days when the doubts creep back in, when the fear feels overwhelming, when the negative thoughts seem so loud that you can't hear anything else. But in those moments, that's when the real transformation happens. That's when you get to choose again. You get to choose the story you want to live. Ask yourself, is this story serving me? Or is it holding me back? The power to change your life lies in your ability to answer that question honestly. When you recognize that the narrative you've been telling yourself no longer serves you, you can change it. And when you change that narrative, you change the direction of your life. This isn't just about positive thinking, it's about taking control. It's about acknowledging that you have the power to shape your thoughts, your mindset, and your future. It's about knowing that the most powerful tool you have is the one between your ears. And when you decide to use it to your advantage, you realize that you are capable of so much more than you ever imagined. So what's the story you're telling yourself right now? Is it time to rewrite it? The choice is yours. As you walk out of here today, I want you to remember something incredibly important. Your thoughts are not just fleeting ideas that come and go. They are the foundation upon which your entire life is built. The life you're living right now, the choices you've made, the direction you're heading, it all began with a single thought. Every action, every decision, and every result you've experienced started with the thoughts you entertain. And the same goes for the life you're about to create. You have the power to shape your future. The power to direct your life is within you, and it all starts with how you think. Your thoughts are not just passive, random occurrences. They are powerful, they are formative, and they are in your control. The way you think determines the path you take. It determines the success you achieve, the relationships you build, and the impact you make in this world. You have the power to harness your thoughts and use them to create the life you were meant to live. But here's the thing, with that power comes responsibility. You can choose to let your thoughts limit you. And you can choose to believe in the doubts, the fears, and the insecurities that creep into your mind. You can choose to let them define who you are and what you're capable of, or you can choose to rise above them. You can choose to challenge those thoughts and replace them with the ones that empower you. You can choose to believe in your potential, in your strength, and in your ability to create change in your life and in the world. The choice is yours, and that's where it begins right here, right now with a thought. You have the ability to choose the thoughts that shape your reality. The moment you realize that, you become unstoppable. No circumstance, no setback, no obstacle can keep you from achieving what you are capable of. But it all starts with the thoughts you allow to occupy your mind. If you want to change your life, you must first change the way you think. Shift your focus from limitations to possibilities. Shift your perspective from fear to courage. Shift your mindset from scarcity to abundance. When you do that, you are not just changing your thoughts, you are changing your life. I want you to think about where you are right now in your life. Are you where you want to be? If not, what story have you been telling yourself that has kept you from getting there? What thoughts have been limiting you? Now ask yourself this: what would it look like if you changed that story? What if you chose to believe in your ability to succeed, to overcome, and to thrive? What if you chose to let go of the fear, the doubt, and the insecurity that have held you back? What if you allowed yourself to think in ways that empowered you rather than held you down? You have the ability to rewrite your story. You have the ability to break free from the chains of negative thinking and create a new narrative for yourself. And it all starts with a single thought. One decision to believe in yourself, to trust in your abilities and your pace, and to know that you are capable of achieving greatness. The road won't always be easy. There will be times when your thoughts will try to pull you back into old patterns of negativity. There will be moments when fear will try to paralyze you, but in those moments, remember, you have the power to choose. You don't have to let those thoughts control you. You don't have to let them define you. You can choose to rise above them. You can choose to take control of your mind, of your thoughts, and of your future. So, as you leave this space today, remember that the power to change your life is already within you. It starts with the thoughts you choose to entertain. If you choose to believe in your ability to create change, to overcome challenges, and to live a life that truly reflects your potential, nothing can stop you. The choice is yours, and it starts with a thought. Thank you